Howdy, folks. Welcome back or welcome aboard. You are listening to Saint Cities by Doc Owen Show, our weekly show dedicated to sanctuary cities and their kissing cousin, immigration. I'm going to drop the word illegal, and I'll explain that a little bit later on in tonight's show. We have a really good show for you tonight, an excellent interview with an old friend of the show by the name of Pastor Greg Locke, and I think you will enjoy what he has to say. And, you know, it'll be kind of a retrospective because it's about the election that just occurred, but you can certainly give it some thought in terms of how you placed your vote. And by the way, I had a considerable amount of fun after the election because, you know, it was extremely contentious as well as publicized, and a lot of people who didn't even vote, even they knew that it was going on. So starting the following day, after that was over, when I would go to a retail store or something like that, I'd always be sure and tell the clerk or the attendant to be sure that they voted. And I would get a look like, are you crazy? Or, you know, what's the deal? And I say, no, it's important. You need to vote. And they'd always say, well, I did. And I'd say, act like I didn't know what was going on and ask them, well, how'd you do that? I say, you know, to elicit out of them that it was yesterday or day before or whenever it was. Just something to make a little bit light of the situation. Welcome to Saint Cities. We are all over the social media as actually two things. We have Doc Owen Show, DOCOWENSHOW, which is on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Pinterest and all kinds of other places. We also have a Facebook page called Saint Cities, SAINTCITIES. All one word if you want to look it up, or it's just at Saint Cities is kind of the handle out there on Facebook. So if you need more information or you want to get some background or hear some of the past shows, you can always go to our Facebook page of Saint Cities, and they are posted out there. We also have a blog by the name of docowenshow.com. You'll be hearing more about that in the show and in the future, as well as we have an app for that on both the iPhone and the Android, and it is called Doc Owen Show. So if you go out and search your Play Store or iTunes for the app, download the app, and it really gives you great access to all of our shows now, as well as the entire library of about 4 years of stuff. So, or we're in our fourth year, so it's a little over 3 years of stuff. I'm joined in the studio by Miss I'm a Surefire. We start our shows in a very traditional manner. We have an quote, something of inspirational nature from Miss Surefire, and I follow that with a leadership quote. So, Miss Surefire, take it away.
And tonight's quote is coming from a different website now. It's called dailybibleonline.com. And tonight's quote comes from the book of James, chapter 4, verses 11 and 12. Do not speak evil of one another, brethren. He who speaks evil of a brother and judges his brother speaks evil of the law and judges the law. But if you judge the law, you are not a doer of the law, but a judge. There is one lawgiver who is able to serve and to destroy. Who are you to judge another? These particular verses discuss condemning others when God has forgiven us. The hearts of people who think this way focus on the world than God. Our goal as Christians is to be a follower of God, as our actions will lead to positive outcomes rather than evil.
Okay, that reminds me of something I learned growing up. judge not others, lest ye be judged.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you're going. That's what you're saying.
I think so.
In so many words.
Yep.
Cool. Good job. And our leadership quote tonight comes from our friends at Crowned Grace International. It's from a fellow by the name of David Schwartz. Mr. Schwartz is a children's author and speaker, fairly well known. He said, "Ideas are fruits of your thinking, but they've got to be harnessed and put to work to have value."
True.
Okay.
I like that.
Yeah, I did too. Mm-hmm. I thought we would lead off. The rest of our traditional start is an excellent version of the Pledge of Allegiance by a former. He's now deceased, but he was a comedian. That's why the beginning of this kind of starts with a chuckle, because people are getting a visual of what he's doing. But it's a very serious piece by a fellow by the name of Red Skelton, and an excellent version of the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes.
Take it away, Mr. Skelton.
I remember a teacher that I had. Now, I went through the 7th grade. I went to the 7th grade. And I left home when I was 10 years old because I was hungry. And I used to, this is true. I work in the summer and I go to school in the winter. But I had this one teacher. He was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time, anyhow. He had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little old teacher. Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell. And he says, he says, "I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester. And it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word. I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity. Allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, O glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. United. That means that we have all come together. States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states. 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose. All divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose. And that's love for country. And to the republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people. And it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others. For all, which means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance: under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer and that would be eliminated from schools too?
The hyphen, Webster's dictionary defines, is a symbol used to divide a compound word or a single word. So it seems to me that when a man calls himself an Afro-American, a Mexican-American, Italian-American, an Irish-American, Jewish-American, what he's saying is, I'm a divided American. Well, we all came from other places, different creeds, different races, to form a nation, to become as one. Yet look at the harm a line has done. A simple little line, and yet as divisive as a line can get. A crooked cross the Nazis flew, and the Russian hammer and sickle, too. Time bombs in the lives of man. But none of these could ever fan the flames of hatred faster than the hyphen. The Russian hammer built a wall that locks men's hearts from freedom's call. The crooked cross flew overhead above 20 million tragic dead. Among them, men from this great nation who died for freedom's preservation. A hyphen is a line that's small. It can be a bridge or be a wall. A bridge can save you lots of time. A wall you always have to climb. The road to liberty lies true. The hyphen's use is up to you. Used as a bridge, it can span all the differences of man. Being free in mind and soul should be our most important goal. If you use the hyphen as a wall, you'll make your life mean and small. An American is a special breed whose people came to her in need. They came to her that they might find a world where they'd have peace of mind, where men are equal, and something more, stand taller than they stood before. So you be wise in your decision, and that little line won't cause division. Let's join hands with one another, for in this land each man's your brother. United we stand, divided we fall. We're Americans, and that says it all.
For those in the audience that did not recognize that voice, that was a fellow we used to call the Duke. Actually, we still call him the Duke, a actor by the name of John Wayne, who stood tall in the saddle and stood tall as an American patriot at all times. That poem was written by John Wayne as well as stated there. I want you to know something about Saint Cities. Saint is an acronym for Sanctuary Assembled in Nature's Tradition. This show is extremely unique, I think, in terms of discussing sanctuary cities. We are not here to run down sanctuary cities. We are here to change the meaning of what a sanctuary city is. We are not anti-immigration. We are anti-illegal immigration. There is a vast, vast difference.
Yep.
And you must pay attention should you be drawn into a discussion of being anti-immigration when somebody is leaving out the word illegal. And so we don't try to present, or what we try to do is educate on an alternative to the current term of sanctuary city, and provide an alternative, a sanctuary assembled in nature's tradition or in God's tradition, which has been pointed out numerous times are the laws of nature that were given to us upon death and upon birth and long before the Constitution or the Bill of Rights put those into code in the United States of America. All they did was codify the feelings of Christian Americans. So let me tell you why saint is so important. This sanctuary assembled in nature's tradition. We are for a sanctuary city where Christmas, a sanctuary for Christians that are being persecuted on a worldwide basis, such as the protection to display a nativity scene at Christmas, or the Ten Commandments wherever or where people engage openly in prayer and read the Bible without fear of retaliation. A sanctuary for military personnel, both active and veteran. A sanctuary for family values that are constantly being eroded in favor of a vocal minority. A sanctuary free from the constant discord created by being hyphenated Americans. We are not Hispanic Americans, white, black, or Asian Americans, or any other dash American. Simply Americans, as Mr. Wayne so eloquently pointed out. A sanctuary for patriots that are proud of our unique American heritage. And finally, a sanctuary for the sanctity of life from conception to a natural end. That is our definition of a sanctuary city. Should be your definition of a sanctuary city. You can find out more, get involved. We will help you in your hometown to promote becoming a saint city. Rather than being a no person against sanctuary cities, be a positive person for sanctuaries created for the right reason. Just a little bit of background. We go over it every show. The best place to find it is at Saint Cities on Facebook. We are also starting something unique tonight, and it will carry forward to the Doc Owen show that's on Thursday night, and that is we're going commercial free. We're not gonna break our broadcast with commercials. We will from time to time ask you to go to the DocOwenShow.com blog and take advantage of our store that is being developed out there, which links to various and sundry we'll call them vendors, but really they're websites where you can buy what we consider to be high quality, high value, patriotic American type items.
Online retailers.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Good job, Anna. So we're going to dispense with the little 30-minute breaks and the 1-minute breaks, and we'll see how yours truly and everybody else involved holds up under that kind of pressure. Right now, you're gonna hear a conversation that I had right before the elections with a young man that we've been friends with and had on the show before by the name of Pastor Greg Locke. I certainly hope you can feel Pastor Greg's energy. You should go out. I highly recommend you go out to YouTube and search on Pastor Greg Locke. You'll see several 1 minute, a bunch of 3 minutes, and even more 15 or so minute speeches or just kind of extemporaneous thoughts from Pastor Greg. He is quite a character. So I hope you enjoy the conversation as much as I enjoyed having it. Take it away. I can tell. I mean, you've been having a good time with the YouTube. I listened to your last few where you were commenting on the presidential race. Mm-hmm. And more importantly, I read some of the comments about what you had to say.
Right.
You take some heat, don't you?
Oh, we take a lot of it. That's no doubt. That's okay.
That's not. I don't understand that response to what you have to say.
Right. Sometimes it gets pretty vicious.
I can tell. I can tell. I guess that's. One of the things that's you just have to deal with it. I mean, it's the persecution. Right. There's one guy talking about the persecution complex. I think it's real. I know worldwide it's real. I think
sure
the United States is it's not nearly as bad here as it is in other countries, but it was bad. I mean, I just saw some of those comments, and I'm like, how could they say that? I mean, they're just anyway.
Yeah, some of them are super. We have somebody that actually combs through some of the comments and has to remove a lot of them. And some of them are pretty threatening.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that recent, Greg, as you speak out more about politics and less about daily activities?
Yeah, it's to this point where it doesn't matter a whole lot what I say, but if I say anything about politics or anti-LGBT or something, yeah, we get some major bomb threats and life threats. And we have to, we've had some of the events that I've gone to as of late, we've really had to make sure that they have the security kicked up because people threaten to be there and say and do all manner of evil.
You're a young guy. The first time we talked a little bit about your background and you testified or gave witness to what your beginnings were, which I thought was absolutely fabulous. And is this something you expected? You know what I'm saying? In other words, would you have imagined the veracity of some of the people coming at you?
I don't know if it's something that you can really be that prepared for.
Okay.
I expected it to some degree. But,
you're a young guy.
There's some crazy people out there.
They're really. That's funny. They say you are.
Exactly. They say I'm quite radical. But that's okay. I'll tell you what is more, probably the most disheartening part is the evil things that are said from the supposed body of Christ, from people that are Christians that don't want you to take a stand, that want you to keep your mouth shut.
Right. I saw some of that, and I kind of read between the lines,
Sure.
All of that stuff about separation of church and state and illegal activities, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
It's just they obviously don't understand what they're talking about because that, or correct me if I'm wrong, because that I've always understood that the separation of church and state, as a lot of people. You all right?
Yeah.
Okay. It's more about. That's kind of a myth. What the Constitution says is that the government will not mandate a particular religion. It doesn't say anything at all about you not being able to talk politics.
Exactly. That's where people get it twisted because it was really for our benefit so that the government wouldn't meddle in our business. But It was never to keep us out of politics and the government. Most of the framers of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, many of those guys were either strong preachers or they were under some strong preaching. Even the deists. Those guys were exposed to it. And there's not a week that goes by that we don't get letters and threats that we're going to lose our 501c3 and all that foolishness. But hey, we just rock on, man. We're not worried about it.
No, good. I didn't figure you would. I just kind of wanted the audience to know that it goes on. It's not all Pollyanna. It's not all easy. And as Emma just handed me a note that said, as Jesus was persecuted, and she's absolutely correct.
Yep, no doubt.
So
people are going to speak out. They might as well go ahead and, understand there's going to be a lot of pressure to compromise. There's going to be, it's not all big pages and, people following you around. There's a lot of crazy people out there that want us to be quiet. And so it's just par for the course.
And I don't want to dwell on this because you're not dwelling on it. Then that's real smart. The last two videos that you put out were, to me, very telling and very important for the audience to hear. When I play this back as part of the show, I'll probably, put those in there either as a precursor to this conversation or afterwards. But you were talking about you voted. It's more important about what you voted for and not who you voted for. And I think that's a real critical distinction.
Sure, because, it's so personality-driven, this election go-round, and so people can't get past the Hillary complex, and they certainly can't get past the Trump complex, as I call it.
Right.
And so I'm trying to get people to understand it's not about the person that we're putting in the office. It's about the principles or the lack thereof that they stand on.
Right.
And, the video, I think, in question, I did it specifically for Twitter and YouTube. I don't know if I put it on my Facebook page. I do different ones. But, yeah,
Yep.
I want to talk about the Supreme Court nominations
Yes.
and how important that is, and
Right.
pro-life and
Yep.
all of that. So I think people need to quit getting the personality complex and get it so twisted, and everybody's arguing Trump, Hillary, when at the end of the day, we better start sitting down and encircling the facts that, one of them is going to give us some absolute freedom and liberty, and the other is absolutely going to take every bit of it away.
Well, yes, and I think, to be perfectly clear, as individuals, they're not going to do it, but they will support an administration that will either support our liberties and our free enterprise and our right to bear guns and all of that kind of jazz, or they will have an administration that will do exactly the opposite. So
exactly.
to me,
set the precedent for the next 20 years for sure.
Yes, sir. I've never seen, and I have been around longer than you have and following it for a long time, I've never seen a greater divide between the two. In other words, it's to me, it's distinct, and I don't see how people can't see that. So, I guess what really bothers me is, and help me out, Pastor, why does it not register with everybody?
People, I think, want to be willfully ignorant. They don't want to know the issues. By and large, the body of Christ is lazy, and that's why we're in the mess that we're in. And so I think people they've just rolled over. They let the culture stroke their belly, and they want to be comfortable and politically correct. And, nobody wants to be unfriended on Facebook. So when you find somebody that's got a lightning rod personality, such as myself, yourself, and other people that are no doubt standing,
yes,
it's almost like we immediately become the radicals. We're the crazy fundamentalists, if you will. Matter of fact, we had a lady that just visited our church the other day, and she came to follow my page and to visit our church because the church where she goes, her pastor used me as an illustration of who not to follow, of some radical, crazy preacher that's decrying Targets, transgender bathrooms, and all of that. And she said it intrigued her because she was tired of the compromise of her preacher, and she wanted to hear somebody who would actually say something.
She wanted somebody to speak out on her behalf, is what she wanted.
Exactly.
That's really interesting, and you're exactly right. I bemoan all the time that as a patriot, I have somehow gathered the handle of conservative. That, to me, just doesn't go very hand in hand at all. But that's the nature of it. So how are you doing on the flock? Or is it growing by leaps and bounds like it was when we talked a few months ago?
It is, yeah. It's growing more so than that. So we're with the counties trying to figure out all the permits to get these back two walls knocked out so we can add another 150 seats. And we've started a Saturday night service, I think, since we talked last.
Yes,
so
sir.
We had to add an additional weekend service. So it's been interesting. We're just growing, and this past weekend, the final service was probably the largest I've ever seen it. It's just people just keep coming and coming, and then when I travel around and preach, visitors are just pouring into the buildings everywhere that I go. They're just people are hungry. They're starving to death for common sense, biblical preaching.
How far and wide do you get to travel, and how does somebody follow that? In other words, if we wanted to, follow it, or if we wanted to put it out on the airwaves,
sure.
How do we know?
I usually put it, I always put it, every week or bi-weekly or whatever on my Facebook page. I'll have like a little graphic that tells people where I'm going to be.
Okay.
I don't normally do it months in advance because the people that follow me every day, they're going to see it and they're going to be there. And what we found is if I do it too far in advance, it gives the crazies too much time to prepare and to show up and to pick it and stuff. And
interesting.
So, I usually do it, weekly, bi-weekly, something like that.
Okay.
But we travel there. I was just in Las Vegas. I've been in almost every state. I'm fixing to this week. I'll be in Kentucky. Next week I'll be in West Virginia. The week after that I'll be in Kokomo, Indiana. So I go all over.
Good for you. Well, I will. I think we are following the Facebook page. If not, we'll start so we can figure out when you're coming to Texas. And that's really not fair. Texas is a pretty big place. We'll figure out when you're coming close to us in Texas, close enough for us to drive to. So
we were looking at the demographics on my page the other day, the staff, and probably, well, there's no doubt about it. Within the United States, Texas is my largest following within the confines of the country.
Hoo-yah! That's great.
I have a lot of people asking me to come to Texas.
I'm grinning from ear to... Well, just remember this. If they try to get you to go to Dallas, that's real close to Texas. I mean, you're not really in Texas if you go to Dallas, but you're within a real comfortable traveling distance.
There you go.
That's said from somebody from South Texas. So what else can we tell the youth? I mean, you are you're one of my heroes. That's the reason I reached out to you again, particularly right before the election, because I knew you would tell it like it is, which is what we try to do. And I have been trying not to get involved in the personality like you, and have been trying to do, and focus my audience as much as I could on the issues. And I think you are right on the money about the Supreme Court and the long-term effect of this particular election. And I'm not sure, are you confident that your audience is understanding what you're telling them about that?
I'm not, to be honest with you. I mean, if people are paying attention, they know the issues and they know what's going on.
Right.
I just don't think a lot of people are paying attention. They cannot see the forest for the trees, if you will. And I don't think people can see 10 years down the road. They can't see 4 years down the road. But, we can base it on what we've already seen. I mean, the last 4 years, the last 8 years, what a train wreck. We can't use 4 or 8 more years of that. So people don't understand how much debt we're going to be in. It's crazy that people do not pay attention.
Well, unfortunately, I recall that people telling me about what I was going to need to have when I was 50, and they were trying to tell me when I was 25, and I didn't listen. I mean, and so that's sort of what we're faced with, is helping people understand the impact of the Supreme Court decisions are going to be for the end of a generation, and we're talking to a generation that's going, oh man, that's not my problem. You're right.
You're right.
I mean, they don't listen any better than we did, or than I did, and. I guess all we can do is keep banging on the door, and every once in a while somebody will open it and say, you're right. And so we've gotten one person that maybe wasn't listening before, but it's tough. So I commend you for your ongoing effort to do that. The last time I just realized the last time we talked, it was either your birthday or your anniversary. It was your anniversary.
It was our wedding anniversary.
It was and you had just arrived at the hotel. So you're still married, right?
Yes, sir. We're happily married. Happily married.
I just figured I would throw that out there. What else can we do for you, Pastor Greg? What kind of a message do you want to deliver, sir?
It's interesting that politics are such a hot topic these days. But at the end of the day, I told somebody on the interview, I said, whatever happens on November the 8th, you can be assured of one thing about Greg Locke on November the 9th. I'm still going to preach that God is sovereign. He is on the throne.
Right.
That the Bible is still the Word of God.
Right.
Jesus is still the hope. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. I certainly have who I want to be in the office. And people need to understand that I'm not head over heels over Donald Trump.
Right.
I told people the other day in Las Vegas, Donald Trump is not going to bring revival, and Hillary Clinton's not going to stop it if God sends it. Neither one of them are the ideal candidates.
Nice. Yeah. Excuse me, I reacted to it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The Clinton, they can't stop it.
Yeah, they can't stop it. If God sends it, nobody's going to stop it. No matter liberalism, communism, whatever, And so God's in control, and I really think the church needs to understand we're getting. I don't care who gets in. There's going to be riots in the street.
I think so
If he
too.
gets in, there's riots in the street. If she gets in, there's riots in the street.
Yeah.
And and I might be crazy, and people think I'm a conspiracist. I'm not so sure that Obama still didn't have something up his sleeve. He's not going to lay down and roll over easily. He never plays by the rules.
I don't think I think he's proven that he's not to be trusted. And that you're coming from the same place I am. And I totally agree with you that no matter who wins, it's going to be a rocky transition. We are not going to go smoothly into the middle of January.
Nope.
I mean, it doesn't matter because it's been such a divisive campaign. Because it's been such a there's been such a line drawn in the sand, and it's almost like the campaign played into Donald Trump's hands like a reality TV show.
Sure.
It was down and dirty and in the trenches the vast majority of the time. They just had trouble staying talking about issues. They had trouble no one took the high road.
Right. And we've still got a week or so it's going to get amazingly crazy, I think, before then.
Wait a minute. You don't think we've learned all we need to learn?
Nope.
I knew when the independent media, when the WikiLeaks and the Breitbarts and the Drudges started piling on and getting in the game, that it was really going to get tough.
Yeah, it's definitely a gloves-off campaign.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I really appreciate your time. We've taken up about 15, 20 minutes of it, and I would love to see you. I hope you get to Texas, or I can get to Eastern Tennessee. So
yes, sir. I'll definitely get that way, and I appreciate you. And anytime I can be on, just let me know. I'm glad to go.
I will look forward to shaking your hand and getting a hug.
Yes, sir. Sounds good to me.
Keep the faith, Pastor Greg. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. God bless you, Doc.
God bless you. Bye-bye. Fine young man. Fine young man. Good head on his shoulders, squared away. Thinks through things logically, and obviously has a very good understanding of the fundamentals of Christianity. So I hope you enjoyed that. In order to do research for this show, the Doc Owen show, as well as in general, I use a thing called Google Alerts. And if you're not familiar with that, just go to google.com/alerts, and it'll pop up. And you can set yourself alerts for certain things. And they can come to you daily, weekly, hourly, by the minute, whatever, in your email inbox that you designate. So I do Google Alerts on 3 particular topics relative to saint cities. One of them says sanctuary cities. The other one is, so any mention on the internet of sanctuary cities comes in on that alert. I also have one called illegal immigration, and I've forgotten what the third one is. Oh, border security. So those 3 keyword searches, if you will, Google runs for me on a daily basis and gives me an email that says, here are the links. And usually there's 4 or 5 links per day. Today's version of my Google Alerts, labeled Sanctuary Cities, is I don't even know how many there are, but it is 15 pages long.
My goodness.
And I thought I'm not gonna delve into each one of them, although I did in order to see what they were about. So, but I am going to read you the headlines. We are now. You've just had a rendition or a premonition from Pastor Greg Locke that I agreed with, that it was going to be a rough and rocky road, and there were going to be riots in the streets, no matter who won. And sure enough, played right into the game. It was far more likely to happen from the Hillary side, but I would also say that this particular election, there would have been some Trump people in the streets, I think. Even conservative Republican young people would not have been able to stand for you know what I'm saying? The results. They wouldn't have trusted him because of all the chatter about rigged elections, et cetera, which, by the way, as it turned out to be true. We've now found approximately 3 million votes from illegals. Wouldn't change the election because they're all located in major metropolitan areas that went for Hillary anyway, but it may well change the outcome of the popular vote, which I don't think has been completely done yet. But that's not about sanctuary cities. Let me read you some of these highlights here. That because, as you know, the president-elect Donald Trump was very, very, very vocal about illegal immigration and sanctuary cities, and he made the statement of completely defunding sanctuary cities almost immediately when he took over, and building a wall and tightening up on illegal immigration. That was his lead-off hot-button issue. He kept it alive. It stayed an issue throughout the campaign, and it's not going to change as he takes over. The transition team is already talking about it. I'll give you some quotes on that in just a minute. But as a result, here are the headlines. Sanctuary cities gird for Trump White House. States' sanctuary cities risk losing federal funds under Trump. That's out of Boston. The first one was from CNN International. A place called marketplace.org. Trump promises to block funding to sanctuary cities. Mayors of sanctuary cities say they'll fight Trump's plans. And if you're not aware of this, if you look at a map, the red and blue maps that are out there on Facebook, all of the blue areas are major metropolitan areas. The Democrats control every major metropolitan area in the United States of America. That has been one of their goals over the past 40 to 50 years, and they've done a very good job of it. They are in charge of the big cities and how the big cities are operated. San Francisco vows to remain sanctuary cities. Are sanctuary cities like Seattle safe from Trump? Betsy Hodges says Minneapolis will remain a sanctuary city despite Trump threats. They go on and on and on. 15 pages of, and these came out today. So 1 week later, you got 15 pages of people and cities and spokespersons and organizations all saying that they are going to totally defy President-elect, soon-to-be President of the United States of America, on sanctuary cities. So,
wow, I wonder if they still do that even if they cut the federal funding for them.
I can guarantee you we're going to find out. We're going to find out. And of all places, in the San Francisco Bay Area personals, rants, and raves section of Craigslist, specifically coming out of Haight-Ashbury. And if you're not familiar with Haight-Ashbury, H-A-I-G-H-T, Ashbury, some people pronounce it Height, but it's Haight-Ashbury. In the early 1960s, that specific spot was where they talked about in the song about come to San Francisco and bring your flowers. That little area of San Francisco was the pinpoint drop of the 60s movement, was Haight-Ashbury. Don't ask me how I know that. I looked it up. Stop this article, this little blurb in Craigslist I thought was interesting enough to bring to you. Stopping illegal immigration isn't hard at all. All right? It says all you have to do is not be a wimp. doesn't use the word wimp. That's all. If you set up sanctuary cities where pieces of crap, I can't read this thing on the air, who have been convicted of 7 felonies and been deported 9 times are set loose onto the streets so they can kill American women on a pier, you will never stop it. If you stop deporting people and let them know that if they come here, they get to stay here, you will never stop it. If you are stupid enough to give citizenship to any baby they have on this side of the border, you will never stop it. So again, it's not hard. It's all about the message you are sending. They are paying human smugglers thousands of dollars, and if they knew that as soon as they get here to America, they will be sent right back, then they're not going to come here in the first place. Mm-hmm. So all we have to do is to stop this problem is stop being a bunch of bleeding heart, wimp-ass liberals. Mm-hmm. Boom.
There you go.
That's out of San Francisco, folks. Top Trump immigration advisor predicts immediate change. Kansas Secretary of State Chris Kobach, Kobach, a key player in several high-profile immigration measures and court cases, has been advising Trump on immigration during his campaign and likely will have a key role in shaping the new president's policies. Kobach said Trump is likely to scrap the Obama administration's approach of deporting only those who have been convicted, a policy, he said, releases dangerous people back into U.S. communities. Quote, the most extreme criminals are deported while criminal arrestees not yet convicted are turned loose, said Kobach. Under the new proposal, criminal arrestees will be deported. There will be immediate improvement in safety for all Americans. He also went on to say, after the border is secure and after everything gets normalized, we're going to make a determination on the people that they're talking about, who are terrific people, Trump said. They're terrific people. We are going to make a determination at that. But before we make that determination, it is very important we are going to secure our border. And what he's talking about is the pushback of all of the families and the people who are here for the right reasons. That, he was trying in what will probably come to be known as Trumpese in his own eloquent manner to make that point. And as long as the sanctuary cities are girding for the law to be enforced, those of us who are in favor of a different type of sanctuary city, a saint city, need to be prepared for the standard talking point pushback, and that is advocacy groups are girding for a pitched battle with the Trump administration over illegal immigration and are warning that deportations, even of criminal suspects, will break up families. That's their whole thing about breaking up families. I would submit to you, if a member of your family is deportable for a felony offense in another country, and it's important that you stay together as a family, you will have to leave as well. Mm-hmm. If it's that important that you stay close to your convicted relative, and I'm not here to judge whether it is or not, but if it is, then you'll have to go as well. Because you can't keep the felon here because they have a local family that are not felons. Here's another one that just says, the sanctuary city designation broadly means that police will not coordinate with federal law enforcement in efforts to deport undocumented immigrants. That's the standard, it's not a definition, but that's the understood meaning of a sanctuary city. And Trump promised on the campaign trail that he would block funding for these type sanctuary cities. And of course, one of the first and most vocal about this is a fellow by the name of Rahm Emanuel. If you don't, he is now the mayor of Chicago. If you don't remember Rahm Emanuel, he was the chief of staff to President Obama during his first term that famously said, "Never let a crisis go to waste." That's his slogan. Every crisis is an opportunity to move liberalism forward. Emanuel came out and said he sought to reduce the fear of immigrants living in this country without authorization. So right there, he said, remove the fears of illegal immigrants, that they're going to be deported. Chicago, quote, Chicago has in the past been a sanctuary city. It always will be a sanctuary city, the mayor said. Okay? He can have it. There are some sane people out there. In Fall River, Massachusetts, there's a sheriff who's pushing back on the local mayor. Local mayor is a sanctuary city, and the sheriff, Bristol County Sheriff Hodgson, said that he agrees with Trump's plan to immediately deport undocumented immigrants who commit crimes, and said he was disappointed to hear that several local leaders in Boston and Providence vowed to remain what some call sanctuary cities. So there are people out there, and as we've said before, it's coming from the Sheriff's Association, not the Police Association. Go figure. Radicals, the headline of this one is Radicals are being recruited to unlawfully obstruct illegal immigration raids in Philadelphia. A Philadelphia-based pro-sanctuary cities group is recruiting radical activists, much like the ones rioting nationwide in protest of Donald Trump's election win, to obstruct immigration and customs enforcement agents from conducting lawful raids to apprehend and deport illegal aliens. They call themselves Sanctuary Philadelphia, and they're literally conducting a recruiting drive for activists to stand in the way of the law. And without reading the law to you, which is it's not really boring, it's just boilerplate. And basically what it says is, if you do anything to get in the way of an officer or, a representative of the authorities, and it's direct violation of 18 U.S. Code 327, conspiracy to impede or injure an officer. If you do anything to get in their way when they are discharging proper duties, that each such person shall be fined under that title or imprisoned for not more than 6 years or both. So go ahead, protest, but get ready to suffer the consequences. Saint cities, if you will recall, SAINT is an acronym. I'm going to keep saying it. Sanctuary assembled in nature's tradition. You can find Saint Cities on the Facebook. Look us up. There's more information out there. Like us. Give us a comment. Reach out to us. We would love to hear from you and be able to respond to you to help your hometown become a saint city before it's pushed into the sanctuary city category. And there is absolutely a difference. So it's going to be a tough sled. We will get through this, and front row. Time to go. You have been listening to the Doc Owen Show. Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. Now go out there this week and take care, pay attention, and God bless.
Bye-bye, folks. God bless.